everyone, welcome to the TiE Youth Entrepreneur Panel. I'm Apurva, I'll be moderating this panel today. First, a little bit about me. I founded my own art gallery when I was 12 and have given keynote speeches at several events since then. I'm a firm believer and advocate for youth and gender minorities in STEAM, so I'm so excited to talk to these three amazing youth entrepreneurs today. First, we have Tarini Dane, the founder and managing partner of Brave 14 Capital. And we also have Arshia Mehta, the founder of Youthivism and Pure to Water, and Kyle Giffen, the co-founder of Neuroclarity. Are they here? Hi, Arshia. Hi, Kyle.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi. Actually, okay, it works now. Never mind. Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hi. So I think everyone here today will learn a lot from these three. They'll give you some insight into the sometimes intimidating process, and I hope they inspire you in your own entrepreneurship. To start off, could you all briefly introduce yourself and your business? Tarini, could you go first?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you again for attending, and thank you, Apurva and Shaylee, for the opportunity. So I just want to start with, I've always been interested in entrepreneurship at a very young age. I started with opening a simple club in my school where I just taught entrepreneurship to kids, and this was in middle school, which led me to writing my own book, which is available on Amazon now. It's called The Young Aspiring Entrepreneur, where I talk about like the age, gender, social biases that entrepreneurs at a young age face and how to overcome them. And also, like, it's a step-by-step process on how to become an entrepreneur. So if you guys ever want more information on that, feel free to either email me or just search it up on Amazon. I've co-founded a women empowerment Instagram account called Classy Women, where my role is to help give advice to several women across the world. These are women from the developing countries as well, like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. I give them one-on-one advice on their issues, like it would be like career advice, relationship problems, to something serious like domestic violence, gender discrimination, etc. And I've also been able to successfully raise an $870,000 venture capital fund from institutional investors in the United States. And my goal is, I've gone to like several speeches. I've been to the Women's March, the Collision Conference. I've spoken at TiECon before. My goal is to encourage more teenagers to be involved in venture capital and entrepreneurship, especially teenage girls, more women in the venture capital field. That's my goal, to encourage all of you to at least learn about this field, the venture capital field, the industry, and know that this is an option for all of you. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. That's super inspiring. As you can see, she's very impressive and we can learn a lot from her. Next, Arshia, could you give a brief introduction about you and your business?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Hi, everyone. My name is Arshia. I'm a freshman at Stanford this year. I'm super interested in entrepreneurship. Actually, just 4 years ago, I was in your place because I was a TiE student myself. So definitely learned a lot from this program, and you're definitely in the right place. In terms of my projects that I've done and the businesses I'm a part of, I'm the founder of Youthivism, which is an organization that strives to bridge the partisan gap that exists in civics education right now. So we create curriculum and unique content for tens of hundreds of instructors across the country, specifically about current events and politics, so they can implement these curriculums and modules into their classroom. And it's a national organization, and we have about, I want to say, 100 high school students working, and we've impacted 300 to 400 middle schools. I'm also founder of Pure to Water. And Pure to Water is an organization that strives to bridge the gap in water impurity, specifically targeting women who are usually bearing the brunt of the burden when it comes to rural water poverty in developing countries. So worked to kind of develop that product in middle school through the science fair and kind of scaled it in high school, and attended a bunch of conferences that were really rewarding. So I can definitely speak about those as well if you all are interested. In particular, the Global Entrepreneurship Summit was a really rewarding experience. And yeah, I'm also happy to speak about my experiences in entrepreneurship at Stanford. I'm involved in two of the biggest entrepreneurship clubs at Stanford, BASIS and ACES. They sound pretty similar, but they're two different clubs. And yeah, so I'm happy to speak to what entrepreneurship looks like at the college level as well, for those of you who are interested. And yeah, super happy to be here and happy to take any questions as well.
Great, thank you. And finally, Kyle, could you give a brief intro about you and your business?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and to the other two speakers. Very inspiring, and proud to be on the panel with you. Right now, I was just climbing at Castle Rock, so I'm in the car, as you can see, but it's a beautiful day here at Castle Rock. And yeah, for a little bit of background on me, I'm a senior at Berkeley. I work at the Entrepreneurship Center at my school. And since the moment I kind of entered school, realized that I did not want to go into the corporate world and work a desk job for a large corporation. And this is a path that I saw a lot of people around me going towards, in data science and software engineering and humanities, and just trying to find small roles at large companies. I'd always been very much compelled to create something myself, and found that the opportunities surrounding me were just so abundant that I would be a fool to not take them. And I'm currently working with a team of 4 engineers, computer scientists, on a platform that does remote biometric research. It's called NeuroClarity. And this research typically costs $10,000 to $20,000 for companies who are in marketing, UI, UX design, entertainment, or education or scientific research. It costs them a very large amount of money to conduct. And what we're doing is democratizing it. We're making it very cheap. We're making it very easy to access and easy to use. And the goal is to kind of eliminate this barrier for a lot of industries and scientists to conduct this research. So if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to me, but I'm really excited, and I'll pass it back to you.
Great, thank you. So how this is basically going to work is I'm going to ask a question to one of you so that we don't have people speaking over each other. But after, if someone has something to say about the same question, please speak up. We'd love to hear what you have to say. So let's get started. So entrepreneurship starts with an idea, but it also takes a lot of motivation and planning to even get it rolling. Kyle, what drew you to pursue entrepreneurship in your fields of interest, and what motivated you to keep it going?
Definitely. What drew me is kind of a reflection of what I just spoke to. It was the idea that you can have sort of the freedom to use the resources around you in whatever way you want, and to really capitalize on the fact that there are all these opportunities, as opposed to kind of taking the more traditional route. And what was the second part of your question right there? How do I stay motivated?
Yeah.
Yes. Exercise and sleep and eating well. I think that these are 3 fundamental things that if you do them, your life will be better. And drink a lot of water. And then just keep reminding yourself, Fatima emphasized this at the end of her talk, but why are you doing what you're doing? And if you don't have a clear answer to that, it's going to be really hard to stay motivated. So try and make it personal, the relationship between you and the startup or business that you're working on. Solve a real problem that compels you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think self-care is something a lot of, especially high school students, sometimes forget about, but it's a huge component on keeping yourself motivated and healthy. Now I want to touch on the difficulty of finding a balance between your business and education. Arshia, how did you personally find a balance between tasks and activities related to your business and your school-related work?
Yeah, I want to say that I have figured that out completely, but it's still a journey, as it is for, I think, all of us here. Just some tips and tricks that I guess I've kind of figured out really worked for me. The majority of my work did end up peaking in high school with Pure 2 Water and Youthivism. But I think just really overusing your Google Calendar as much as possible, it truly becomes a necessity in college. So you want to develop those habits early. For me, I like to track the tasks that I have to do in the day using like a Google spreadsheet where I just kind of write down, and then I can like green the boxes if I've done it and red them if I haven't. So that way I can track my productivity along the days, as well as kind of keep track of what I have to do. Just staying organized, I think, is really, really helpful. And being willing to reach out for help to your instructors if you need it is really important as well. Of course, you know, there's people always say that education comes first, but when you're doing something that's so impactful and meaningful to you, it's really hard to create that line. And for me, I never really strove or strive to prioritize one over the other. But I would say being super organized and being diligent and not only scheduling time to work on schoolwork, as most of us do already, but time to work on your projects and your businesses would be really helpful as well. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the advice that I would give. It's a whole different journey in college because, you know, you're not really stuck in school from like 8 to 3 every day. The schedule's a lot more dynamic and it's almost a lot more liberating than high school. So I would say that if you can figure out high school, college will come pretty easy to you as well.
Thank you. And also, could you talk about if you were able to further your business at school, for example, in high school or at Stanford?
Yeah, sure. So as for youthvism specifically, because it does talk, it's kind of about education equality and bridging the inequity that exists. I definitely utilize resources at my high school to kind of take that forward because we are, you know, reforming curriculum in schools. So we definitely did a lot of conferences and skill building with the unified school district that I'm in. We did a lot of stuff with teacher surveys and feedback, and we'd have them implement some stuff. We ran a few workshops with the school district. So we definitely took use of all the resources we had available and all the people who wanted to help us at high school. When it comes to college, I found that it's really easy to take what you're learning because each kind of entrepreneurship club that I'm in has its own plan of action. So, you know, you're learning different things right now. You're learning like go-to-market strategy and basis, and I'm learning something completely different in ASIS. But taking those concepts and, you know, kind of making them work with what you're already doing and kind of reinforcing those concepts is really helpful. You can't necessarily completely merge the work, obviously, because, you know, you've done so much. You're kind of it's a little bit hard to completely overlap, but I think that you can use the resources you are given in college absolutely to further it. And on top of that, you don't even need to stick to entrepreneurship clubs to further, you know, your projects. Like I also this year I'm doing a fellowship called the Intercollegiate Civil Disagreement Fellowship with 4 other partner institutions. Basically, it's like 5 colleges set like 8 delegates of students to meet every Friday and just discuss politics from a nonpartisan point of view. And so that's super cool. And it's pretty in line with what youthvism is doing, right? With this whole nonpartisan education thing. So you can find other opportunities to kind of mold yourself into the best person you can become to lead your organization as well, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm sure that really helped our youth entrepreneurs on how to navigate school and business, because definitely I also have struggled with sort of keeping some tasks for my business and some for school. But during this pandemic, a Google Calendar has been super helpful. Um, and Tarini, being so young, have you ever found it difficult to navigate corporate environments? I know you've worked a lot with companies, and I'm just wondering if do you have any advice for young entrepreneurs trying to reach out to companies and to high places?
So when you're reaching out to different companies or investors, VCs, anyone, I think the main thing is to have a good pitch deck, especially if you're a startup, if you're a young entrepreneur, having everything clear and decided, like your go-to market, what's your market, targeted buyers, targeted customers, more statistics on your product. There are, if you Google up, there's like Uber's perfect pitch deck examples and Airbnb's pitch deck examples. So having that and knowing your why. I think the previous speaker, Fatima, also emphasized this a lot, but I think I need to stress on this more, having your why. What's your reason? Why is your company different from others? Why is your company, what drives you in your company in that leadership position? What drives you every day? Why do you wake up every day? What is like that driving factor, that motivating factor that brings you to do what you do or what your company does? Having that why. For example, the reason I started my venture capital fund, my venture capital career is because if you look at it, according to the World Economic Forum, it will take 208 years, I think more probably, to close the gender gap. And according to me, the faster way to do that is venture capital. If you're able to fund more women in C-suite roles or minority people in C-suite roles and female founders, encouraging them, it's going to be much faster to narrow that tech gender gap. That's my why. My goal is to create like a female founders venture capital fund in the future, probably maybe like $100 million fund targeted just for female founders and minorities. Having that why. And now with that being said, when you you reach out to adults, there might be some unconscious bias with some adults, not all, of course. There have been several people who've been very kind and inspiring for me and have really helped me. I have great mentors. But at the same time, there will be some people who, if it's not even just unconscious bias, just directly just straight up bias. And how to navigate that, always like maintain your sanity. You have to be polite with everybody, and everybody teaches you something. Each experience you have with an investor, with another company, with a mentor, and an advisor, anybody, that experience will teach you something also. So like you learn something. If somebody rejects your company's idea or decides not to give you funding, you learn from that and change that, so that the next investor meeting you have, or the next mentor meeting, company meeting you have, you're growing, you're learning, you're changing your idea to better perform. I think that would be my advice.
Great, thank you so much. And I'm sure all the youth entrepreneurs here have learned how important it is to take risks, but sometimes we don't really hear concrete examples. Can you all share a time that you took a risk and whether or not it paid off? We can go in order of Kyle, Arshia, and Tarini.
Sure thing. So wait, a time where I took a risk and it did pay off or did not pay off?
Either way.
Either way, okay. Yeah, so this actually time is about to come, but I'm taking next semester off of school instead of graduating to pursue the startup that I'm working on full time. I don't know if this will pay off yet. I really want it to, but what I do know is that I'm not down to spend the full tuition for online classes, as I see, despite these really compelling events like things like this, where you're actually getting students involved and it's intense and they're learning and they're acting and they're doing things rapidly. A lot of my view of online education right now is that it's lacking in some of the fundamental benefits that it's delivering on, and that it's just not the same level of rigor that it was in the past. And so I've made the decision that I'd rather take the time off of school to pursue this full time and fail miserably and completely regret it, but then learn about all the mistakes I made and use those to inform my decision making going forward. This is a big risk. My mom doesn't like it. My grandpa doesn't like it, but I'm doing it because I know that this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I would kick myself in 20 years if I didn't. So maybe that's a good example.
Great, thank you. I hope it pays off. And Arshia, could you share?
Yeah, sure. So an example of a risk that I have taken with respect to youthivism would be that my senior year, around November or around October, actually, one of the partner organizations we had been working with for a few months reached out to us and kind of casually mentioned that, they'd love to fly us out to their conference in DC. I'm based in the Bay. They'd love to fly us out to their conference in DC and, fully subsidized and just kind of get some more youth voices. The conference was about equality and civics education. So, definitely up our alley. But we didn't really know, too much about what the conference would look like. We were both my co-founder is a year younger than me. And so she was a junior at the time and I was a senior at the time. We didn't know all that much about what to expect. It was kind of our first conference that we would be attending, as a part of youthivism completely alone. So, I think that to some extent was a risk. We missed a few days of school to attend, weren't really sure what we would get out of this conference, but we ended up meeting so many valuable connections that our growth just skyrocketed for the next few months. And we are still in touch with some of the people that we met at the conference today. And looking back, we always tell ourselves like we were almost not about to go because we almost didn't know what to expect. Like we were kind of like, should we miss school? Like, should we really just kind of fly to DC and, just kind of do it on a whim? But it paid off so much. And so I think that, it's not really a crazy risk or anything, but I think it speaks to like, take every opportunity that you can take. I think that I really did try to do that as much as I could in high school, and I'm trying to do that in college as well. It's really rewarding. And even if 9 out of 10 times they don't pay off as well as you'd expected, that 1 out of 10 times they do pay off will really just change the course of your life or your business. So yeah.
Definitely. I think sometimes the small decisions can really result in really big payoffs. So thank you for sharing. And finally, Tarini, would you like to share a risk that you
Sure,
took?
thank you. You guys all have achieved so much. Great job on overcoming all those risks. So my risk would be when I co-founded my Instagram account with my friend Komal. We started by empowering women just through quotes. And that was working great. Everyone was happy, everything was fine until I decided to help women one-on-one through advice, just advice through Instagram's direct message system. And that was a big risk for me at first, but I think the biggest risk was at this time I was like in 6th grade, about to be a 7th grader. I hadn't told anyone in my family about this or anything. And one of the times I got a message from a girl, and she was a domestic violence victim, and she sent a picture of her bruised arm, and it was completely bruised. There were scars everywhere. And at that time, I was scared. This was a risk for me. Disobeying, not disobeying, but hiding this from my parents was a big risk for me. I remember showing this to my mom, and she said, "Are you sure this is safe? What happens? She's a domestic violence victim. She lives thousands of miles away from me on the other side of the globe. How safe is this?" And looking back, the experiences and teaching women and helping them at least stand up for themselves, helping these domestic violence victims learn from their past experiences and know that they're worth more than just that incident or whatever somebody else, their husband, tells them that they are, telling them, letting them know that they're worth more than that. Those experiences has helped shape me who I am today. It has helped me grow. It has helped me mature. It has helped me realize that this is what happens across in the world, that such incidents, especially learning this about these incidents when you're in like 6th, 7th grade, they're new to you. And those experiences have indirectly shaped me to become more resilient, more motivated, more inspired to focus on my goal to help more female founders. That's one risk. The second risk is through my venture capital fund. I'm obviously not, I can't predict anything, but 10 years from now, who knows, my venture capital fund might just entirely fail, or it might just go really well. You never know, especially with COVID right now, the markets are a little different, they're fluctuating. However, I obviously can't predict the future, but what I do know is that, like Kyle said, 20 years from now, I'd probably kick myself if I didn't take this opportunity, if I didn't pursue this goal. And either way, I'm just going to look at it as in what's the worst case that could happen? We're all young at this time. The worst thing that could happen is, let's say you fail. You have your entire life to make up for that failure. Might as well fail at 15 than fail when you're 45, right? So there's a lot of learning experience that you could learn from just failing also that could help you in the future. That would be my advice.
Definitely, thank you. I think a lot of times people want to go into entrepreneurship to change the world, and it's really important to know that sometimes things will scare you, because there is a lot of things that are scary when you're trying to change the world for good. So thank you for sharing your experience. And we do have to wrap it up really quickly, but I was wondering if you could travel back in time and give your younger self advice on starting your entrepreneurship journey, what would you say? One sentence, yeah. And then we can go Kyle, Arshia, Tarini again.
One sentence? Okay. It's going to be a sentence with 2 clauses. Okay. Don't listen to almost anything anyone tells you, comma, surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. Am I allowed to explain the first part of that sentence?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I don't mean to say that you shouldn't listen to anything someone tells you, but a lot of people will tell you things. They're speaking from experience that it might not be the best advice. They might be limiting themselves and therefore trying to limit you by telling you you can't do something or that you shouldn't do something. And you should really trust your gut and not allow the people around you to influence you in a negative way. Comma, surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. That's my advice.
Great, thank you. And then Arshia, would you like to go next?
Yeah, this is pretty niche, but I think it is the most important feedback I could give myself, which is do not take market research for granted. If you are trying to solve a problem that you are only partially exposed to, and you know that there are people that can speak to the problem in a more critical lens for you to examine before you start your venture, you need to listen to these people. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've just talked to someone who's experienced the problem and a light bulb has gone off in my head, and I realized that I was approaching a problem completely wrong because I was drawing assumptions about the market without actually evaluating it first. So do not take that period for granted. Listen to the people who you are trying to serve. Yeah, that's probably the most valuable feedback I can give.
Definitely. Thank you. And finally, Tarini, could you give a sentence?
Well, the first part would be little girls with dreams do become women with vision. And the second thing would be keep pushing, keep asking questions, keep pushing boundaries, and keep persisting. Perseverance is key. And better days are yet to come. I know that's not one sentence, but I just think that it's important. All of these, I would love to tell my younger self.
All right. Thank you so much, Tarini, Arshia, and Kyle. It's been a pleasure talking to you today, and you've given some wonderful advice for the young entrepreneurs here. We wish you the very best in your future endeavors, and I'm excited to see what you accomplish. And thank you to the youth who have joined us today. I wish you guys the best of luck in your future pursuits. And if you feel comfortable sharing your contacts, could you maybe drop like an email or something in the chat if people have further questions to ask you? Yeah, thank you. I'll pass it back to Shiley now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity, Shaylee and Apurva, and it was lovely learning from all the other two panelists, Arshia and Kyle. You guys are really inspiring.
Thank you, all of you. All of your journeys and companies is so inspirational and encouraging. It was really an amazing panel. I'm sure all of our students here watching will take in all the advice and information you shared with us today. It was really great. Thank you so much, guys. Before we close off, I have a couple of TiE volunteers here with me to share some information about our upcoming events and then the winner of the 2020 keynote raffle.